Bernie, thank you so much for sitting down and having a conversation about what's happening with Xandeum, because you guys have taken a little bit of a different approach. You're not putting out a roadmap. Instead, you're focusing on different eras. And it's right on the website. Go under that learn section and you learn about those different areas. Can you walk me through what those look like and why go that route?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Action. So great question. Yeah, we do have those eras. We actually also have a roadmap there, which is a little bit more like the individual achievements and stuff. And our roadmap is almost interactive, by the way, right? So we're updating it and all these kind of things. But we're talking about those innovation eras now. And, what's so cool about that era concept is we've planned it all out. So there's a total of 30 releases that we bring out. And we had to kind of figure out in the beginning, man, this is kind of an overwhelming type of set of tasks that we have to do to make Xandeum a reality, right? And there's so many different things. And if we don't break it down into smaller goals, it's like, you're sitting in front of that mountain and are just being overwhelmed. And procrastination is a human trait with all of us, I would say, right? And we needed to break that down, right? And it turned out to be, in our daily work, in the development, it turned out to be so super helpful. I wouldn't have envisioned that, right? Because we have the sequence of 30 releases already laid out in front of us. And it's a little bit of a break with the kind of iterative development or like agile development concept where mostly people say, like, well, we don't know what the next release is going to bring, right? We just look like, 10 feet ahead of us and then we see where we go. And of course, I'm a big fan of agile development and we're still doing that. But somehow we needed a long-term goal, right? We need
big milestones, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Big milestones. We needed to know where we're going, so that we can always keep the end goal in mind, right? And we keep the why in mind. Why are we doing that? To help decentralize everything and accelerate humanity's transition to self-determination and all these type of things. And yeah, we have these 30 releases, and it might turn out different, of course. We're very, very agile. And with kind of the how we implement each of these 30, with some of them we don't know yet. Some of them we know quite well. This is how we want to do it. With some of them we will see once we get there, and we might, swap out a few of these, or we might need a few more, or can skip some of these. So it's still all agile, and we're far away from that waterfall model, right? So when I started getting into IT, that was all we had. It was the waterfall model, right? So we had to build like specs and then design and go through all these phases.
But with these eras, it means that you thought about it.
Yeah.
You thought it through. What do you need to do from point A to get all the way to point B and actually have a successful launch? Where are we today?
Yeah. So these eras are kind of best of both worlds, right? Of agile and waterfall. We're in the Deep South era, and the era names, we had to put some names, and some of them put historic figures and stuff like that. I just chose to make it a journey through the country of Germany from south to north. So we have the Deep South, the South, the Main era. I pronounce it Main because it's named after the German river of Main. And then we have Central, we have Coal, and we have the North, right? So those are the 6 eras. And let me just go through each of these and what are the goals. And you find that on the website also. So we start out in the Deep South era. That's just 2 releases, and that's just to get started, right? So you can register your PNode there. That's the provider nodes that actually do the heavy lifting of storing all these data. Just in order to get started, we have these two releases, the Constance release and the Freiburg release.
March 25th.
March 25th, right. And then we get into the South era, right? And that's starting with the Munich release, and then there's 6 or 7 other releases. The Munich release is the first working prototype. So everything's there. You can build real apps then on the Munich release already on our DevNet. We won't be on mainnet yet. And that won't change. So that's another big thing. We're developer friendly, right? We need developers to build on Xandeum. And, a big part of the story is make this super, super simple. Make that paradigm in a way that they know it from Web 2 development and things like that. So that's going to be the South era. It starts with Munich, which is the working prototype. Then we go through 7 more releases in the South era to make it more and more not like a prototype, but like an MVP. So an MVP is a minimum viable product, but that's more than a prototype. A minimum viable product is viable, right?
It's a product.
It's a product and it's viable. So it can be run for real use cases. You can put real money on the line to run transactions on there. Yeah. That's why the Munich release will be deployed on Solana mainnet already. We will collect real fees to use our storage layer in Sol. They will be distributed, real Sol, real mainnet Sol, to the PNode operators.
Very cool.
And that's already going to happen in the Munich release, scheduled to be somewhere in the summer, hopefully early summer. And then from that MVP in the South era, we go to the South era was the working prototype. Then the Frankfurt release is the first one of the mine era.
Okay.
And that's where we have that MVP, right? And that's where our version, our decentralized version of Wikipedia is going deployed into mainnet. And then what we're going to do is, and with that, the storage will be orchestrated in a centralized manner. That's just for us to have quick time to market.
Got it.
Right? And then the whole, the next era, which is going to be the central era, that's all about, it's kind of weird, right? Because it's called the central era, but it's really about decentralization.
Well, makes it easy to remember.
Makes it easy to remember. So that's where this central component that knows, what file is stored on which PNode. We start out in a centralized manner there just to have fast time to market.
Sure.
But then in the central era, so like late summer, we're decentralizing all that. And that's probably one of the hardest tasks that we have to do on that whole journey. Because then that Atlas component that knows which is stored where is going to be kind of virtualized. It's got the physical Atlas will be gone, right? In the beginning, that physical Atlas is just a big server with like a key value database that knows where everything is. But then the PNodes will kind of administer themselves.
Very cool.
There will be a leader among the PNodes. It's almost like its own little blockchain. But it will not be a blockchain. We will not have a ledger between the PNodes. We will not have a ledger of all these different state changes that we have there, because then it wouldn't scale either, right? And we would run into the same problems, and we don't need it. We just want to know that the content of storage that we have right now is the correct one.
Got it.
And we have these Merkle proofs for that we talked about in different videos. We log these to the Solana blockchain. We do that trust anchoring even to other blockchains as the Solana chain. So we can trust, like without any centralization, right? You don't have to trust Xandeum or something, right? We can trust that whatever is stored in all these, in that file system, in that global file system that we have, is the correct data through that trust anchoring that we do. And that's all part of the central era, through that Byzantine fault tolerance, right? And Byzantine fault tolerance, what does that mean? So fault tolerance, anyone can figure out what that means, right? If one of these PNode fails, we don't want the whole storage layer to be down, right? So if something fails, just other PNodes take over and then everything will be good, right?
Got it.
But there are two types of fault tolerance, right? There is crash fault tolerance. That means if one of these PNodes crashes or just doesn't work anymore, then the others can take over. That's the easy part, the crash fault tolerance, right? It's called CFT. And then there's BFT, Byzantine fault tolerance. And that takes into account that a PNode can not only crash, but it can also turn out to be malicious, right? So there could be intentionally malicious players running their PNodes and trying to do something that's not legit.
Right.
And we need to be fault tolerant for that as well.
Yeah.
And that's what's called a Byzantine fault tolerance. I think the naming came from some Byzantine generals' problems where, the generals wanted to make the best decision, but nobody knows who's acting maliciously and who isn't. So that's coming from that. And that's a scientific, almost mathematical problem on how do we get Byzantine fault tolerance. And spoiler alert, it's not easy, right? And there was a paper called Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance, PBFT, which came out at some point, and that was being adopted widely by all of these proof-of-stake chains that we have out there, right? So starting with all these, with Ethereum proof of stake, and also with what Anatoly with Solana did when he figured that out around 2018 or so. The PBFT, Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance, was all there was, right? So he was using the current state of technology and science to do that PBFT. PBFT is still complex. And then we had this project that we all remember named Libra, right? So there was another Libra recently. Let's not talk about that one. But about the initial Libra, when was that? 2020 or something?
Yeah, I mean, they were running I'm still running that node.
Okay. Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not making money, but it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Decentralization matters, and making sure that we can support people like that, to me, is important.
Yeah. So it was Facebook back in the day. So I remember they rebranded as Meta after that Libra initiative. And they wanted to build their own blockchain and XYZ. They got so much backlash.
Didn't work out for them too much.
Everywhere, so they just withdrew. And they dropped all that code open source to the world, right? And then things like Aptos and Sui built on that and built their blockchains on that. And they have a whole new thing of BFT. I think the Facebook engineers came up with that in some way. It has a name. It's not called Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance. They gave it a different name. And the name, believe it or not, is Hot Stuff. So you can argue whether that's a great name or not, probably for Googling.
I mean, you remember it, right?
Yeah, I remember it, yeah. But it's not unique. If you Google it, probably you get a lot of other results, right? Yeah. I'm not so sure about that.
You got to filter through Bernie's pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Hot Stuff. And that is a whole new way of Byzantine fault tolerance. That is a little bit more lightweight, and we can even strip off more of that fat there because we don't need the ledger, right? So, but applying that, it is really, really whole new hot stuff, and we've thought that through a lot because we needed to think it through at least as much to be super comfortable that the whole thing is feasible, right? We don't want to do it and then at some point figure out, oh, we cannot do that, right? So we went through all that hot stuff technology, figuring out that it can be used for these PNodes. That's why the PNodes need stake, right? It's a very simplified stake thing. It's like a direct staking. There will be a leader among the PNodes, and we will know which one of these is the leader. And the probability of being selected as the leader will be proportional to the stake that each PNode has. So it's all these proof of stake things that we know from PBFT. They will all be there, but we won't have a ledger. And still, it will be a network of PNodes, of storage provider nodes that administer themselves, that have the Byzantine fault tolerance, that are trust anchored to other chains in their ledger. So that way we don't need our own ledger, which simplifies things again. And that's going to be part of the central era.
Got it. What's after the central area?
After the central era, we go to the coal era, which is named after that German coal mining area where I happen to be born and raised in. Starting with the Essen release. So Essen for Germans, the city of Essen, which, by the way, is like the 5th largest city or so in Germany, and nobody knows about it if you don't live in Germany anyway. And and with that Essen release, we introduce fee markets. And that's also a complex thing, right? So fee markets is a whole beast in itself, and it has to be market-oriented. It has to be supply and demand-based, just because demand will fluctuate crazy. And with storage, not even sure if the word fluctuation or volatility is the correct word here, because as we all know, once we store something, we rarely ever delete it, right?
Yeah.
No hard disk is ever large enough, right?
It's very true.
So this storage stuff is kind of sticky, right? But still, there will be spikes, right? It'll go up like crazy once there is a successful app.
Yeah. So all it takes is one app to show up. And
all it takes is one killer app, right? The demand is gonna go up, and then prices need to go up for a certain amount of time to just incentivize people to run more PNodes. And once they catch up, and thanks to our technology, it is so easy to spin up another PNode, right? It doesn't take a lot of time, right? Sometimes it's like, in the real economy, if we're dependent on like copper or lead or something, and then suddenly we need more, it can take 5, 6, 7 years until there's enough mines.
Find a new mine, bring it out, refine it, all of that.
Yeah. So we have like super high elasticity. I think that's how it's called, right? So people can spin up their PNodes in no time, right?
That's awesome.
So this price spike that inevitably will come for that storage, they will be short-lived, right? Because people bring up.
Which is a healthy thing, because often we see in crypto, a lot of people, let's have more nodes, more. We're going to get 1 million nodes. And it's like, and you're only making $3,000 a month as an organization. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, and I've been asked questions, by the way, with running those PNodes, and there are people that have been running nodes in storage chains, right? And like SIA and
ROE, Filecoin, there's plenty of those out there.
Yeah. and some of them have been underwhelming in profitability. And it's all about demand, right? So let's be clear about that. There's no guarantee, of course. There's no guarantees everywhere in life, but there's no guarantee there will be a lot of demand for the Xandeum chain, but I honestly think it will, because it's so easy for app developers to build these apps. They will see how easy it is to build a Wikipedia. They want to build their own stuff, and that'll create that demand. We will have that whole share economy, like Airbnb and eBay and everything. It can all be decentralized when we can eliminate the middleman and all these type of things.
But it's also different, right? It's not just like all of these other file systems that are out there. It's geared towards developers. It's geared to actually have fast, retrievable storage solutions. Unlike, a lot of these things, like, it literally takes forever to get any data out, because they're not really made for a daily consumption, reading and writing, as opposed to what Xandeum is doing.
And we have the intent to spark a Cambrian explosion of Web3 apps. That's our intent, and that's the reason we're building this. And that's how we differ from storage chains that were out there. They didn't have that intent to spark a revolution of new apps on smart contracts, right? They just hadn't. So, and just by having the intent, of course, it's no guarantee that it's going to work out that way. But if you don't have the intent, it's never going to go
Exactly.
there. Right?
What you are guaranteeing is that we're going to be able to run some PNodes here, and put into action the things that we want to do, the type of storage that we do need to grow and move forward.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing about the coal era, building those fee markets, right? And then after the coal era, we're going to have the, so where were we?
We're going north.
Yeah, we're north already. And that's the north era. It's starting with the Münster release. Beautiful city of Münster, Germany. And then from there we go north. And that's all about scalability and performance, right? So in the other 5 eras, we've built functionality. And with that base functionality, of course, we're already way more scalable than the Solana accounts are.
Yeah.
But there's always, by all experience, when you build stuff that's going to be out there for being used by millions and millions of people, there are all sorts of performance bottlenecks that we're going to find there. There's all sorts of scalability issues and stuff like that. So we're basically polishing the whole thing to make it work at a high transaction volume, at a high capacity volume, at a high number of PNodes volume. And that has been the case with Solana. It was always built to be scalable with transactions per seconds and stuff. But as they built it, they figured out, there's a lot of bottlenecks somewhere. And once they hit a certain level of usage, then they thought why don't we scale more than this here? We need to fix this, right? So that's the whole point of the North era, where we, kind of fix the bottlenecks there.
So North area is all about optimization.
Optimization for, high volume and
What's the timeline looking like for that North area? When do you plan or expect us to get there?
So we have a big goal, right? So if you look at all these eras with, making that full BFT among the storage nodes, having those fee markets and stuff like that, and, building the whole thing out in the beginning, normally I would say that's a multi-year project, right? Even to have the first iteration out there.
Right.
We're going to be going fast here, right? I think time to market is everything here. We do have a first mover advantage here, and we need to keep that first mover advantage, and we will keep that first mover advantage with your help, because you need to run a PNode, right? And that's the best thing you can do to contribute right now. And building out the number of PNodes, building out that software one after the other, and we're going to be hurtling through these 6 eras and 30 releases, and the goal is all within 2025.
Wow.
And that just means, none of these 30 releases can be perfect, right? It's probably like 90-95% solutions in many cases. But in order for time to market, we need to go through these really, really fast, and we will. And then there will be like a phase of a few years of actually battle testing this, right? And that's what happened in Solana as well, right? It's still called mainnet beta, right? After 4 years or so of mainnet. And but we have that ambitious goal of going through all of these eras and all of these 30 releases within this year. We're ahead of the PNode launch as we're recording this. It's going to be happening on March 25th.
Yep.
So we're not even there yet. But, the launch is going to happen with the Constance release, but we're almost done with the Freiburg release right now, right, in the background. So we always do that in parallel.
Got it.
What's out on DevNet is out on DevNet, and we will be developing in our team the next releases already.
Got it.
And try and test it out on an even smaller network that we call TriNet. That's just a 3 validator node and maybe 10, 20 PNode network that's operated by Xandeum.
Like internal, making sure things
like
work.
an internal thing. Before it goes to DevNet, it's going to be tested out on Trinet. So Freiburg is on Trinet right now as we speak. And maybe even Munich will be out there on Trinet before we even launch the PNodes.
That would be cool.
So, we're quite fast now moving forward after all that thought work that we put into, making that roadmap and mapping out all these eras. And we're building this whole thing in public, right? With you and with the community. Everyone can see where we are in that roadmap, and everyone can try it out on our DevNet. The DevNet will transition into testnet once we go live on mainnet in the mine era. And
Was it worth it outlining all of these things before, hitting the ground running?
Well, time will tell, but it looks like it, right? It was so helpful for us to know where we're heading and having the end goal in mind and seeing that it's all feasible and that we can get there and we have like a good plan, right? And it's almost like a master plan, right?
Yeah.
Thinking of Tesla, which I happen to be a relatively early investor in, they always had that first master plan where they said, like, well, if we want to come up with EVs, we'd have to start with an expensive model, right? Which was their original Roadster that they sold to celebrities in the Bay Area and in LA, right? And then with the money raised from that, build a mass market car, right? Which turned out to be the Model 3. That was always their master plan, and they had that in mind, that when they build the Roadster, they need what they did it for, right? In order to capture the mass market in the next step. And I think it's so helpful for us and for the development team to know what it's all for and where we're headed and what impact it's going to make and how it's going to help humanity to move towards a future where we can all be more and more self-determined and not controlled by any entity.
Yeah, that self-sufficiency is pretty awesome and pretty important if we want to live the lives that we want to live, not being dictated by anybody else.
That's why we're here in the U.S., right? And not in those countries that we came from. Right?
Exactly. Both of us.
Yeah, both of us. Yeah.
No, I mean, the effort is not only noble, it's really exciting to see that there are more crazy people like myself that actually care about the stuff out there. Yeah. It's really rewarding to see people running nodes personally, because it shows me that there's people out there that care about the stuff, that want to be a part of something greater than themselves and really supply maybe storage, maybe processing, whatever it may be, to others to really fulfill this decentralized meta that we're all living in right now, where we want to really take control of our data, to really take that next step into being self-sovereign and not having anybody else tell us where we can or we can't spend our money, or where we can or cannot go. So having that freedom, to me, is everything. And hats off to you for having such a great outline plan for so many different eras of how you're going to accomplish that with Xandeum.
Yeah, and we just have to know what we're doing it for, because otherwise, building a company, going through all of these things and, cash crunches and having to raise money again, all that kind of stuff, it is tough, right? Yeah. If you don't have a big reason on why you're doing that, you will stop at some point in time, right? So that's why you need to have that, and driving humanity towards decentralizing apps and decentralizing IT. I think that's a big one, and it sometimes it sounds like something everyone's saying, and everyone's like, we enable Web3 and the real Web3. And that's why I'm doing these videos here. I hope it'll explain to you why we really think that this is going to make a big impact. This is going to be a big step. There was a big step from Bitcoin to Ethereum, right? Suddenly there was a whole different blockchain. It was programmable, right? And I think the size and the significance of the step from like normal smart contracts to Xandeum is at least as large as the step from Bitcoin to Ethereum. And that's what I firmly believe.
I love it. Now, the why is super important. So many people go out there trying to build things and they don't even know why they're doing it. So I really appreciate the fact that you're asking the tough questions, why you're building this thing in the first place, getting it all outlined and pushing forward with that mission, knowing exactly where you want to be with these different eras and, really setting those goalposts that you are not only achieving, but you're letting other people know, like you said, building in the public. We're going to get there. This is where we're going. This is how we're doing it. So thank you for your efforts, Bernie. Blockchain can definitely be a whole lot better when people like yourself build incredible things with a purpose. So I appreciate all your efforts and I can't wait to see where Xandeum goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.